look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Content is king. So if you have some content you need created, hit up iopvideo.com. Video production, podcasting, you name it, we can do it. iopvideo.com. We make things look pretty.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are about to hear the latest episode of The Voice Party.
Nice. Well, you guys, hey, everybody, you guys excited for Halloween?
Woo! I mean, we can't do nothing because the pandemic, but
fuck, Halloween is not about trick-or-treating for us. I mean,
for you guys, I have to break it to my kid.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you set the mood for Halloween?
I never do anything. That's the only thing I've done since I was a little kid.
You're
like
wrong.
The only thing I do.
I'm talking about setting the mood for Halloween, which is today's episode is based on reviewing our top films, our top horror films. And what do you do to fucking get ready for the Halloween season? You watch some fucking horror films. So today we are all gonna share our top 5 horror films to watch. It could, I there's so many to talk about. So I think
there is in the voice party group chat. We all were changing our top 5s because we kept thinking of new movies.
Yeah, and there's so much that we probably haven't even thought about that. If like a little something reminded us, like, oh shit, yeah, of course. So my top, so we have a chat, and my top 5 has changed since I posted my original top 5. So it's, but I narrowed it down to what top 5 films get me in the mood for Halloween that I like to watch, which is based on nostalgia. It's and then we start thinking about where there is slasher and supernatural films. Joaquin and I talked a lot about that, but we narrowed it down to the top 5. Who's ready to share your top 5? And hopefully you listeners who are listening, I hope we mentioned something you haven't watched and you can watch it all together in a family to get in the mood for Halloween, because that's how everybody gets in the mood for Halloween. It seems like watching horror films.
So let's do 1-1-1, right? So kind of like we did the last episode.
You get to name your first one, buddy, for opening your mouth.
All right. So my list has actually changed too, and I'm not sure I can say that.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can say that it's in order, but the first one I want to talk about is Pan's Labyrinth. Is there?
Guillermo del Toro. Okay.
Wait, you consider that a horror film? Okay. I love it, but I didn't think to include it.
The box office returns, of course, it's a horror film.
I didn't consider it horror either, though. I agree with. I mean, I don't know if that's where you're going, Joaquin. I thought it was like more fantasy, but yeah, it can be scary. It can be scary. I consider horror.
So there's actually horror movies that aren't scary. So all it really has to do is kind of deal with the themes. And I can't remember at the top of my head like some movies that are considered horror that really aren't scary, but really as long as it deals with themes related to horror, I think it's considered horror. Of course, we all want to be, most people want to be scared. I actually don't. Anyways, Pan's Labyrinth. So when I first watched it, I really liked it, and it's nice. It's nice to watch a movie in Spanish. But it wasn't until I think like my 5th or 6th. The more I watched it, the more I liked it. And the last time I watched it, I don't know, it just hit me everything at once. Like the story's really good, the setting is really good. Probably my favorite part is the music. I'm a huge fan of movie scores, and I forget the guy's name. It's a Spanish guy, but I've tried looking for other of his movies, and they're really hard to find because most of them are Spanish movies. But yeah, like I have the soundtrack. I've heard it to death. I love the costume of the Fawn and his acting, and the structure too. Like the structure of the movie. I was actually, when I was in film school, I was writing a horror movie, and I was pretty much using the template of Pan's Labyrinth. The theme was a little bit different.
Javier Navarrete.
Yeah, Javier Navarrete. Yeah. I found one like really weird movie. It wasn't a great. I forget what the name of it, but the score to this other movie that I saw, it wasn't like, it was nothing like Pan's Labyrinth. Like Pan's Labyrinth has that that memorable lullaby.
Yeah, it has its own song, right? Pan's.
Yeah. Funny story. The other day, my kid couldn't fall asleep, and she's like, "Can you sing me a song to go to sleep?" And I don't know any songs. And so I was like, "Oh, I didn't." So all I did was I hummed Pan's Labyrinth theme.
You hummed it?
Yeah. Yeah, I hummed it.
That,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think I used to know it on piano as well.
Oh wow! So
What's that?
You don't consider that horror though, right, Javier? I mean, Gasper.
I do consider it horror. It's not the scariest movie, and it kind of goes back and forth. I mean, it's
eerie. It's eerie for sure. Yeah, like, you know what it is.
Well,
for me too, it's something about, I don't know what it is, but when it's something like fantasy, then it's based back in like the 40s. What is this, like the 30s? Pan's Labyrinth?
No, it's during World War II.
World War II, so the 40s.
Yeah.
It's something about like movies that are based back in the day. I don't know. Whenever it's something like Hellboy, for example, another Guillermo, it just seems like maybe it could happen. Like it's the sci-fi stuff. It was back then. Like we don't know. We weren't there. I don't know.
So period movies don't scare you a whole lot?
No, they do. It just seems like something like that could happen back then. I don't know why I get that thought in my head whenever it's a, it's big.
Yeah, no, there definitely are fantasy elements. I mean, you could probably argue that it's more of a fantasy than it is a horror movie.
Which, I mean, but you can say that about any Guillermo del Toro, I think.
True.
But that's a good one. All right, okay. That's anybody else have anything? Someone took a deep breath, but nothing came out.
It seemed like Joaquin was going to say something and then changed his mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was just going to ask Gaspar, what are some of the horror themes in that film? Because I see fairy tale, I see fantasy, but I'm just like, okay, horror, maybe, I don't know.
Well, the thing that I was
monsters?
like, almost,
I don't know.
the thing that I was copying almost directly
Lord
was that
has monsters, and it's not horror.
That's true.
What is?
No, a lot of movies. Yeah,
I said Lord of the Rings has monsters, and it's not horror.
No, I know that. I mean, I'm saying that's the only thing I could think of.
One of the things I like the most, and like this isn't really a horror theme, but like, so you're not supposed to know whether any of that fairy tale stuff is real, right? I've come to the conclusion that it's not. That it's all kind of in the little girl's mind, and it's just kind of a fantasy world that she escapes to because of the things that she's dealing with. That was what I was kind of copying when I was writing my own. That's probably my favorite thing about the movie. It just it reminds me of what it was to be a kid and kind of escape into your imagination.
Okay. All right. What about you, Joaquin?
Okay, on my list, I'm just going to start off strong with The Exorcist.
That's one of my favorites, man. I'm glad you.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That was on my list. Elaborate, homeboy.
Okay, so I first saw The Exorcist when they re-released it in the 2000s.
2001, right?
And with like deleted, I would say it was like 2001, deleted footage.
The spider
that
walk.
had made the original film mastered. Yes.
Dude.
So my encounter with the movie's kind of tainted because I saw it with like more stuff thrown in it.
Yeah.
But like it holds a special place in my heart because my mom and I were just kind of getting to know each other. I was in middle school, it was 8th grade, and I had just moved out here and to California. And my mom was trying to bond with me because we spent so many years apart. And my grandparents had this rule, like, you don't turn the TV on Sunday. You know, you go to church, you read your Bible, you focus on the Lord. You don't even go and buy food, because then you're encouraging people to work on Sunday, which, you know, is supposed to be the Sabbath, etc., etc. And after church, we just kind of went and saw a movie anyway, and we both kind of snuck in back into the house like a couple of teenagers. Like, she's a grown woman sneaking, you know, it was so funny, and trying to play it off like maybe it was Bible study or something like that. But that was the first time that we did that. She was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to a movie. We're gonna see
to
Exorcist of all
watch The
things."
Exorcist on a Sunday when you have those strict rules.
Yes, yes, that's why it.
You, that is a dope fucking, like, that's like the ultimate sin, bro. You know,
My soul's been marked ever since, yo. Like,
yeah, that's what fucking Devil's Due came out of that fucking day.
that was the inspiration for it. Hear no
Dude,
evil, speak no evil, do no evil, you know.
you know
Um,
what, man? Yeah, that film, I watched it in pieces because my brother and my cousin were watching it when it first came out in 2001. I had, you know, in 2001. Because the first thing I look at on the screen is when she's first, and or 2000, I was 10. At that point, the scariest thing I've seen was like, you know, fucking Halloween. You know, Michael Myers is scary, and this was, you know, like, holy shit. And I always thought, man, whoever did this must have been like huge. Later on, I watched a lot of interviews with Joaquin, some of these. Man, how he made it, that's why it stands at the. He didn't intend to make a horror film. That's what he says whenever he gets asked about that. He made it with the he's a documentary filmmaker, and he made it with the tone that it's a documentary, like the feeling to the film, which is why I guess it seems so real. And he didn't use any of the sound from the set. Everything was afterwards. That's why the film really quiet. You know, so that's what. I don't know. Once I don't know why this shit is so creepy, man. And like, once I dove into how I actually found out stories about the real story, the real exorcism, you know, the real which was a little boy, not a little girl. And one of the creepiest things, which is the spider walk, the that's in the new version where she crawls on her back downstairs. One of the things I read about the real case is the mom was like washing dishes, and then her son, you know, while he's possessed or whatever, and he was locked up in his room, I guess he got out and he was spider walking backwards, and she was washing dishes and she felt something licking her leg. She looks down and it was her son, and I was like, I was doing that at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. It scared the shit out of me, man. So like, that movie, no matter how old it is, it's still, I think, better and scarier than some of these new movies coming out.
Especially, and I'll just say it, like, I've seen, after that, I had seen a lot of. Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello? Great. I was gonna say, like, after that I'd seen plenty of possession films, and The Exorcist is the best one. I haven't seen a single one that has done it better. Like The Possession of Emily Rose, films about preventing the Antichrist, all that stuff that dabble in similar themes. I don't think any of them really. And the reason why I think The Exorcist is better is because of it's like little things, like the family that the demon chooses to torment is already they're already like a broken home, right? It's a single mom raising her kid. And if you're already religious and you have these certain preconceived notions, like, you get this idea that, oh, okay, so there were certain cracks in the family already that allow the demon in. It's almost like the directors really just the writers and directors really just paid attention to things like that, like little openings like that.
Right.
The gradual nature of the possession as well. Like it doesn't just go 0 to 60. Like it's slow and uncomfortable, and it feels
Very.
it's one of those things that feels like, man, like this could happen to me. Like this could happen to
If
a
you if you
neighbor,
fuck around.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think a really, really good horror film is one that even though know something. Now I come from a religious background, so I'm never gonna say like demonic possession just can't be real, because in the Bible Jesus cast out demons out of people. So you know what I mean? Like as long as I'm a member of the faith, I'm never gonna say that it can't or never happened. But
Mm-hmm.
in a case where like vampires don't exist, but if this movie or this book you're reading can get you so absorbed in it that you're horrified by the idea of, oh, what if this were possible, then the film's done its job. And I really do think uh, The Exorcist has done it better than anyone else, hands down.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you know what I think adds to one of the things that adds to the eeriness of it is William Friedkin. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of his. He used actual sounds that someone from the Vatican provided of exorcisms for the growling. And another thing is he had like Catholic priests who have performed exorcisms on set to kind of mentor him and not in just kind of guy, so it was, I think that kind of added, I mean, that was a game changer of a film back in, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I think I sent it to you guys, the impact of what this film had back in the 70s when it first came out. I don't know if you guys saw that, of all the crowds that were going to see it and how people were fainting in theaters. Because I mean, if you think about like the movies that were around back then, horror films, for instance, nothing came close. And like you said, dude, nothing comes close to this day that I can think of either. There is one that is on your list, and if you still mention it on your list by the time we finish this, it's because I consider this like it's a exorcism gone wrong, told like by the people of faith side, and then another one on your list is exorcist possession film gone well, which is a more modern film, but
Right.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so all right, anybody else have anything on the Exorcist? Hello?
No, I don't think anybody has anything else to say on The Exorcist. You pretty much covered all the.
I don't think Gaspar's here anymore.
No, he left.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
maybe he'll come back. I don't know.
What about you, Phil? What's on your list, homie?
Okay, I got a very good one, a very important one, and it's so important I completely forgot it and had to shuffle some things around last minute. I'm talking about Evil Dead, not the remake, but the original, the Sam Raimi.
Oh yeah,
classic. Personally, I like Evil Dead 2 more, but that's more like a horror comedy, whereas the first one is just a straight horror. So that's why I'm putting the first one here, because that film is a classic, and I can't say enough good things about that, both from like a story point of view and like a production point of view, because it was super low budget, and you could tell, like, if you look at the credits, all these people are credited as fake shemps because actors would just quit and leave, and so he would just turn them into zombies and have whoever was lying around the set put on some makeup and pretend to be the Deadite version of this character.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why like one by one everybody gets turned into a Deadite, because eventually, like, he couldn't afford to pay the actors, and so most of them would just, like, get fed up and quit and leave after a while, and so he would just have like crew members put on Deadite makeup and be like the evil possessed version of these characters as he slowly killed them off. And Bruce Campbell was the only one who survived to the end, which is why I think he ended up getting listed as a producer, because he stuck it out.
Yeah. And how many did he do afterwards? A shitload, right?
Bruce Campbell, Campbell was in all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, he was in Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. He was in the TV show. I don't think he was in the reboot because I never saw the reboot. But
And it's available on Netflix right now too for all you listeners.
yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on the horror film classic, The Evil Dead?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I just wanted to know if you guys could hear me.
I just watched it this week, a few days ago, for the first time, dude.
Oh my god! See, it's so weird for me to be like, what? How could? That's like when you find out somebody's never seen Star Wars. You're like, what? How have you never seen Star Wars?
Okay, I gotta take that back. I've seen parts of it. I think, I've seen parts of it. I don't know. It just wasn't my jam. So.
Yeah, well, I thought it was okay. Here's my initial. I didn't watch it as a kid, and a lot of these movies that we're talking about, nostalgia definitely has something to do with like how it imprints in our mind. I think because I didn't watch it back in the days, maybe that's why it seemed a little cheesy to me. But I also appreciate the art behind it because I know. From interviews, I've seen interviews with Sam Raimi on how like he didn't have any money, and a lot of the shit that they did for that film was little camera tricks that he kind of came up with that weren't really used at the time. Like
the whole thing with the actual Evil Dead, like they literally like took two 2x4s and nailed them together to make like a little cross, and then mounted the camera to that and would just have crew members run with it, and that's how they would get like the shots of like the camera floating through the woods and going through the house and crashing through windows and stuff.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah,
ingenuity with making that film, which as a filmmaker I like super like admire and whatnot. Plus, I think it's a cool story. You know, a bunch of people go to the woods, romantic getaway, find a Book of the Dead, some shit goes down, and next thing you know, he's got a chainsaw for a hand and is transported to the medieval times. I mean, all the first three movies all take place one after another. So,
yeah, I have yet to watch any of the other ones. I just watched the first one. Someone told me
2 is my favorite out of the whole franchise.
Okay.
Definitely recommend 2. Army of Darkness isn't really my bag, but I could see why people like it.
Okay.
Joaquin, did you have anything about the Evil Dead you wanted to chime in before we move on?
It was Evil Dead 2, right?
Oh, I put the first one because even though I like the second one more, it's more of a horror comedy, whereas the first one is more of just a straight horror film.
I think that the Evil Dead is one of Sam Raimi's greatest films, if not the greatest, because that's his breakout movie.
More than Spider-Man.
More than Spider-Man 2.
Do you know why I say that? Because it was his first success. That got him in the door for Spider-Man 2. You know what I mean? Like, I
was kidding.
Okay. So, who wants to go next? I forget whose turn it is.
It was my.
Isn't it Gas? I think it's Gaspar's turn, right? Or it's either JD or Gaspar's because I went and Phil went.
Because you had The Exorcist, I had Dead, Gaspar had Pan's Labyrinth. What you got, J-Los?
The Blair Witch Project.
All right, man.
Blair Witch Project, the movie that made everyone think they could make a movie.
Well, it did. The Paranormal Activity guys, it certainly made them think they could make a horror film.
Yeah.
It was the first. It was the first ever found footage film, man. And
I mean, it wasn't the first ever, but it was like the first mainstream one.
The first mainstream, yeah. And the thing about it too, like I was saying, like we mentioned earlier, it was the first film. Well, not the first film, but it definitely built the way it marketed itself was genius because it made you believe that it was a real thing. They put it out as a found footage film, and everyone, there was no fucking there was no internet, there was no social media, so we couldn't verify this shit. Nowadays, you know who's gonna be in the movie, what the movie's about before, before the fucking actors are Snapchatting pictures of themselves on set, So
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when that film came out, like at least 50% of your moviegoers thought it was real, just because of how it was marketed, and the fact that since the internet wasn't a thing, people weren't used to having to double check and fact check every single thing they encompass.
which was great because we I, as a kid, my older cousins told me it was real, so we're watching it and it's horrible, it's like scary. And of course, as I got older, obviously I know that wasn't real, but I appreciate it even more now because how they tricked everybody and they used actors you wouldn't recognize. Everyone's audition for the film was, they asked everybody, they put them in a scenario. It said, "This is you're someone who is about to go to jail for life, and you have one last statement to give the jury before they make their decision. Go." And that was everybody's little improv scene to do on the fly for the directors and the producers, and that's how they got in. The best ones got in by their best, on the fly. What was it called? Monologue. So really good acting, and I really wanted to get someone who was involved with the film on, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. Maybe later on. Everybody cross your fingers.
Well,
miracles happen.
What's crazy is is how they made the film, like the behind the scenes of the production, because most of the film was shot by the actors themselves, and they were really camping out in the woods, and the filmmakers would leave them notes like every day the filmmakers would do a food drop with lunch and rations and stuff, and they'd put notes in there about shit for the places for the actors to go and shit for them to do and things they may want to say and shit like that. And so there's a lot of improv from the actors as far as that goes. I know as the production went on, the filmmakers were giving them less and less food to make them more irritable to help with their acting. So by the end, it's half a granola bar and a banana, and that's it for the whole day. I know at one point, the actor who played Josh, he's reading his note and it just says, "At some point today when no one's looking, leave. Don't tell them.
Wow.
Leave and don't come back." So the actors had no idea Josh was going to fucking disappear.
Wow. I didn't know that. So their reaction was real. It was an induced feeling. Yeah.
Filmmakers would wait for the actors to fall asleep and then start shaking their fucking tents and shit. And my favorite story is that part in the film where they're fucking running and Heather's got the camera and she's like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is that?" But we never see acting to because they didn't film it. Apparently they hired a really old, really skinny, frail old guy, and they've stuck him in long johns and put him out in the woods. So you just have this pale, white, skinny humanoid figure in the woods. And so
what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
But they were so scared they didn't film it.
Nice.
And the fucking poor old guy tripped and fell into a puddle and got soaking wet. So, he was even more miserable than the actors, and he didn't even make it into the film.
Oh, damn. I think you told me that before. That's hilarious. That I saw an interview with the actors, and they'd never really made movies after that, and they said that there was such a horrible experience dealing with the people afterwards.
Yeah,
because
most movies aren't made that way. So I think we need to stipulate that not most movies don't go through that kind of process.
Right. Yeah.
But, I know. Did you guys see any of the other Blair Witch movies, like Book of Shadows or?
Nah.
I saw that remake. I saw Book of Shadows.
I remember when it came out liking Book of Shadows, but in hindsight, it's a very flawed film that's very generic.
Yeah.
And I know the poor studio hacked that film to death in the edit to the point where it was so far removed from the director's vision that he tried to get his name taken off of it.
Wow.
One subtle thing is he wanted it to be more of more psychological and have it's slowly like start normal and then slowly get more and more creepy and more intense, have to be like a slow build. And the studio like hacked the shit out of it and put those like filmed all those flashbacks with, you know, the dude from Burn Notice in the fucking insane asylum, and none of that was in the original film, and they like completely changed the tone and the pacing and everything. Like just one subtle thing is like originally he wanted the film to open with that Frank Sinatra song Witchcraft, you know, which everybody fucking knows that song, and the studio changed it to Marilyn Manson. So like right there, the whole fucking tone of the movie is completely 180'd right from the jump. So I kind of want to see his original version because from what I was looking online, it sounds way more interesting than what we got.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like the idea where it's a sequel, but it's a sequel that acknowledges that the first film is a movie, because it's like people in the real world reacting to the hype of the Blair Witch Project film.
Oh,
So,
I see. Okay.
Which 2, it's acknowledging that the first one was just a movie. So I do kind of like that. I saw the reboot, like the 2016, 2014, whatever one, that reboot. It was fine. It's basically like if the first movie happened in present day, and you can kind of tell because they have like drones and cell phones and shit, and the pacing is a lot faster. It was fine. It just came across as like more generic and more like repeating the beats that worked in the first film without adding much new. So I think it's a testament that the fucking shitty, low budget, we're going to film this on a DV camcorder and fuck with our actors movie is the one that like stands the test of time after all these years.
You know, I'll say this, man. I feel I think I watched Book of Shadows when it first came out. And I don't think I ever went back to check, you know, to see it again. I don't even remember it that well. I do remember it was like Heather's brother, right?
No, but with with the reboot, the 2016 reboot, it was like, I think it was like Heather's sister who was going into the woods and trying to find clues as to where because apparently she fucking disappeared, and so her and she gets a group of people together and they go in the woods and they're going to try and figure out what happened to her and Josh and everybody, and shenanigans ensue.
As they should.
Yeah, exactly. That was the reboot. That was like the 2016 reboot.
So what I was gonna say is, like, for me, the Blair Witch is one of those where I don't really. I guess it makes sense that they would make a second part because of how big the first one was, but artistically, I think that's one of those that you don't need to touch. I don't really need a Blair Witch sequel. Just like I didn't need an Exorcist sequel, but you know. I guess, yeah, it makes money, I guess, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of movies that didn't need sequels, and yet here we are.
Exactly, yeah. So, but yeah, that's my first one on my list that I had to reevaluate my list, and that was the first one that came to mind, man. Unless you guys have anything else to say about that one, I think Gasper owes us another one.
Just really quickly that I wish the whole like found footage thing hadn't been a thing. Like I remember, I watched the Blair Witch Project, and I can't say that I liked it, but I watched it several times. It made me really uncomfortable. And then when I watched the second one, I remember like I was like so glad that it wasn't somebody holding like a camcorder. But then yeah, I think I haven't seen it since then, but I think the movie falls apart as it goes on. And then I was just as uncomfortable with the second. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, like I will say one thing: as influential as the Blair Witch Project was, it did sadly bring us the found footage genre, which I think we can safely say we could have done without, because it's gotten a little ridiculous.
I actually like the Paranormal Activity movies.
Agreed.
I've seen 1, 2, and 3, 4, and the marked ones, and I actually like them. But after about an hour, you're like, okay, can we just watch a movie now? Like, all this shit is cute, but all right, let's. And I think if I ever did one,
for me, two big examples are like, I forget what it was, like Apollo 12, whatever the space one, the found footage in space.
Yeah.
Then it just kind of like, you remember that one? Then
Yeah.
it felt like they're just taking this genre and just doing whatever they can to it. Because then you watch the film and the film fucking ends with like them burning up upon re-entry, and you're like, well, how did we get this footage then if it burned up on re-entry?
It was through Wi-Fi, bro.
Yeah.
And then the other one was like Chronicle, like the superhero found footage movie, where it really just like they were doing Mad Libs and like, what can we combine with found footage?
Isn't that like Michael B. Jordan's first film?
Yeah, and Josh Trank directed it. And I'm sure if I wasn't a filmmaker, I could just take it on its own merits. But since I'm a filmmaker, I couldn't shut off the part of my brain that was noticing the glaring flaws in the film. Like I'm watching this and I'm like, you're in a crowded club. There's no way I should be able to hear this dialogue with the on-camera microphone. Or like when they introduce a second character who also films everything they do so they can cut back and forth during the conversation.
That doesn't make I hate that.
You know, and like there was a part at the end where he was like in like a hospital bed and there's just like a camera on a tripod and his dad comes to visit him and you just hear like a cop off screen say like an exposition line, like the camera needs to stay on as part of the investigation. And I'm like, why? There's a fucking security camera in the corner. Why do you need this one on a tripod? He's fucking sleeping. What are you doing? So like I couldn't enjoy the film because I just kept noticing all those flaws.
Yeah. What about Cloverfield? Do you think that one was done well? Or it got too annoying at that point for me.
That's where I'm going to go the other way because I actually really like Cloverfield. I like the second Cloverfield way more, like 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like, fuck, I should have put that on my list, but I think of it more as like a thriller than a horror film.
Yeah, for sure. And we don't want to talk about it. Yeah, no, for sure.
Cloverfield, I really love because I grew up watching like Ultraman and Godzilla and Power Rangers and everything. So, we're used to like giant monsters fighting and falling into buildings and then doing drop kicks on the moon and shit, but we never see like that Godzilla battle from like the people's point of view. So I actually thought, okay, well, this is actually pretty interesting, and this is an interesting way to tell this story. All right, JJ, I'm with you.
So,
that definitely broke some different ground.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. What were you going to say again?
No, I mean, I'm going to move on unless anybody else has thoughts.
No, I'm. Everybody else's, go for it, man.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit.
No.
I want to talk about Fatal Frame. So Fatal Frame is a video game, and the premise is that basically you go into a haunted area, usually a haunted house, and there's ghosts, and your weapon is a camera. So if you played the original Resident Evil, this kind of came out of the Resident Evil, but instead of a gun, you pick up a camera, and the camera has kind of exorcism power. And so it's actually pretty scary because you have to look at these, ghosts kind of in the face as you're shooting at them with the camera. The most popular one is Fatal Frame 2, and it's the most cinematic. But I like the first one because the first one is more like, it's more structured, almost like a slasher movie. Like you have characters and you have a handful of characters and they slowly go away one way or another. Have any of you guys heard of it? Okay.
No, not me.
Okay.
I don't know about these guys, but not me.
I'm familiar with Final Fight, but not Fatal Frame.
What the hell? Are you familiar with Buffalo Bill, the serial killer? No, but I'm familiar with Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It would actually be really cool if at some point we could get together and have you guys play it. It would be great to see. We could do a let's play and watch you guys kind of react. I don't know if you guys would be scared by it, but
this doesn't do much for the listeners.
All right, sorry. So yeah, it's just it's a really fun video game. There's not much I could say, especially if you guys haven't played it. I don't know how much of our audience is into this sort of thing, but That's basically the premise. Like, you know, you wander into this haunted house, you find a camera, and for some reason the camera has exorcism power, and so whenever ghosts show up, like, yeah. Now I know not to pick non-cinematic video games for this sort of thing.
Well, I think there's been other video games that have used that mechanic. Like, wasn't it like the Outlast game where you're in like that mental asylum with inmates, and you have like your camcorder that you use as like a device and the thing. I don't know. I've only played it once, and it was years ago.
What console
So,
was that one for?
mechanics you're talking.
What console was that one for?
I played it on the PC, but I think it might have been on other stuff. It was recent.
What did it use? Did it use first-person shooter mechanics?
Yeah, it did. And then like you have like a camcorder, and like the camcorder has night vision, and so that's how you can see in the dark is using the night vision on the camcorder. But your camcorder runs out of batteries, so you have to like constantly find batteries for your camcorder. And then at one point you get attacked by a thug, and your camcorder gets cracked. And every time you use it, there's a big crack on your screen.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, yeah. So the beauty about this one is that it's the controls are actually really, really clunky, and that was kind of the thing that Resident Evil does really well. Is that
controls?
The controls suck. But this one, you're like you're just a normal human being, and so you run really slow, you move really slow, and I think by 2020 standards, if you play that game, it can get frustrating. But the cool thing is that you're kind of helpless against the ghosts, and it's a Japanese game, so if you're into Japanese horror, like and Japanese imagery, horror imagery scares you, like it's a great game for that sort of thing. Can you guys hear me?
Anybody else familiar with this?
No, I guess it was just. Yeah.
I think it's just Casper.
All right. Okay. All right. Maybe we'll get around to playing that one day.
We should.
Yeah,
if it's anything
for sure.
like Final Fight, then I'm down.
No.
All right.
Nothing like Final Fight.
Joaquin, what's next on your list, homie?
He's not here.
Oh.
He left again.
Then I guess we'll just go to Phil.
He's back.
Okay. Joaquin, what's next on your list, homie?
Next on my list is let's see, Hereditary.
Hereditary, fucking A. I love that movie.
Yes, I so Ari Aster. It's the first film that I know him for. I'm not sure what he's done before that, but this is the one that definitely put him on the map. It's a film that it's a slow burn, kind of reminds you of like Rosemary's Baby and some of those slow burn horror films from like the 70s, that time period, the Stepford Wives, that sort of thing. And I like how it eases you. You're going to notice the theme with some horror movies. I love how it sort of eases you into the terror. Like, because it opens up with a tragedy, right? Because the matriarch of the family, the grandmother, is dead. And you're thinking, oh my, how horrible. And then you realize there's all this other stuff under the surface. And what I think is really interesting is not just, like, if you come into this and you're like, yo, supernatural horror is not my thing because I don't believe in things that go bump in the night, that's totally okay. Because the theme of this is so well worked, is so well worth the watch. And the theme is how our family can negatively affect us through our adulthood and how we can pass on certain negative traits onto our children. That's the theme. Mm-hmm. That's the metaphor of the crazy demon that that the cult worships. Spoiler alert, by the way, for those folks who haven't seen it yet. But, the idea that the grandmother practiced this and believed in this, and it's affecting her grandchildren even after her death. And they also talk about things like not dealing with the supernatural, just with the way the grandmother raised her daughter that was kind of unhealthy or toxic, and they hint at that. So the themes are a little surface level as well. So if the mainline horror doesn't, if you can't see past the mainline horror into what the film's really trying to say, you can also glean from comments made by the characters that this is what this film is all about. And it was so fresh. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I think that's what you were referring to with an exorcism gone right, right? When
Yeah,
you were
that's what.
saying, yeah,
Yeah, a successful exorcism. No, a
yes,
successful possession. It's that's the way I see the story as.
Okay.
I thought it was a fresh, like, you know what, man. When I saw it, it didn't have cheap jump scares for me. It definitely had an eeriness to it that made me uncomfortable. It was more of a, for me personally, it made me uncomfortable more than anything. It's just like whoever did this story or whatever, they definitely did their homework on the occult and on like the whole King Payman thing kind of freaked me out because that's some real shit, man. I don't okay, whether you believe it or not that people that all that exists is one thing, but there are little secret groups that worship certain deities to this day, and Joaquin, right, and to this day,
yeah. They
anyways. And so it just they did their homework on a lot of that, and and it just adds to the eeriness of it.
Yeah, that's something that struck me as every now and then when you're watching one of these films, you see something and you go, that almost sounds realistic enough to be true. So I actually looked up the the source material for the film, and it turns out there's some ancient scripture that isn't used in mainstream Judaism. That Book of Solomon or whatever they call it in the film, Hereditary. That's actually from a real
Book of what?
ancient source. I think it's called the Book of Solomon.
Oh,
Yeah, because the idea was, well,
okay.
in
Or
the,
Book of Enoch.
yeah, or a Book of Enoch. Maybe it was Book of Enoch. But
Yeah,
but the
yeah. I think so.
this book that Ari Aster uses as reference is an ancient religious text that isn't, used in mainstream Judaism. And the Pymian
Yeah.
being is a little bit different when you look at the actual original text. Of course, it's a fictional film, so they take liberty with it. But I thought it was kind of cool that he chose such an obscure reference. And I think Phil and I had this conversation years ago about Frosted Mini Fears. He said, it's fine and all to just, because I've always come in with the philosophy of if you're going to make something up, then go ahead and make that thing up, whether it's a city or a video game system or whatever. And then Phil and Chad were like, well, we find it best when you can sort of implant a kernel of truth, a kernel of fact, or at least something almost similar enough in your story to kind of ground it. So it's like, that sounds familiar. Like there is actually this book that has references to these names. It may be altered a little bit for the sake of the script, but you know
Yeah,
what I mean? That sort of grounds it, makes it even more creepy.
yeah. The thing behind it was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, if A is true and B is true, they'll probably believe C is true, even if C is something you just made up.
Yep. Which is kind of like what the Exorcist did, because that was a real case, and they changed part of it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of
yeah,
reminds me
no,
of,
that aside from, go ahead. Sorry.
Joaquin, you there?
I think we lost him. But I don't know if
I can
you guys
hear,
can hear him. I can't hear him.
And for the Human Torch,
Well, one thing,
instead of giving him a Bang Whiz V8 for him to drive, he gave him a Jaguar or whatever was popular at the time for teenagers to drive in the 60s. So he was like, I wanted to ground superhero stories in reality.
right. No, and aside from the writing and the story itself, and not they did it on purpose, which I'll say it, but the actress, she has like I don't want to say disease, she looks younger than she is, and she has a kind of odd look to her, and I don't know what it was. It added like a creepiness to it because she was also a creepy child herself. And I think that's what they were going for. And I always like it when they actually cast someone with like an odd look, like in Stranger Things, that kid with the weird disease he has. It just kind of which I appreciated on the acting level, because they hire actors that a lot of people probably wouldn't hire. So that's a good choice, man. Anybody else want to chime in on
I don't
Hereditary?
think I've seen that one.
I know I haven't seen that one.
Okay, I definitely suggest you guys check that out. It's a slow burn, and it's definitely, it made me uncomfortable. So I watch a lot of films and a lot of horror films, and that was one of the better ones that I've seen recently. I'll say, man. Phil, what's next for you, man?
Okay. All right. I got one that hopefully you guys saw, because I saw this when I was a kid, and it's been on my list ever since. I'm talking about the classic Event Horizon. Tell me y'all have seen Event Horizon.
I have not.
Sixth grade.
Oh.
Sixth grade with my best friend at the time from kindergarten.
So basically, it's a sci-fi horror film. It takes place on the ship the Nebuchadnezzar, and it's got Lawrence Fishburne. It's got Sam Neill. Basically, there's this ship that has like this experimental like hyperdrive, and it disappears as soon as they activate it, and then it shows up again, and the crew is gone, and so there's this ship that's sent out on like a rescue mission to find out what happens. Some creepy shit starts going around. Fucking Sam Neill turns into a psychopath, starts murdering people. It turns out the fucking hyperdrive like sends you to fucking hell and fucking drives you insane. So it's a fantastic film. It's weird seeing Lawrence Fishburne with hair, but whatever. it's so good though. Like as this kid, it would scare the fuck out of me because I love sci-fi. So as a kid, I would watch like Star Trek and Red Dwarf and Farscape and all these other like sci-fi stuff, and usually those are like optimistic for the most part, but this, I'd never seen like a sci-fi horror film where it's like, all right, you'll fucking die if you go outside because there's no atmosphere, and some of those things that would happen were just freaking horrifying. Like it's a very graphic film. Like I definitely should not have been watching it as a fucking 9-year-old or however I was when it came out. Joaquin, you said you've seen it. Joaquin?
Fun.
Yeah. Okay, that's all she wrote, I guess. But
Well, so I get
film. I definitely recommend, especially if you like sci-fi. I definitely recommend checking it out.
okay.
It's weird seeing Sam Neill play that kind of role where he's essentially like a serial killer in space, because you're used to him as being like the guy from Jurassic Park who doesn't know. But
with the fire. Yeah. Right? That's the guy you're talking about, right? Yeah.
You're starting to cut out, JD. You may get closer to the Wi-Fi.
Oh, sorry about that. No, yeah, that's the only thing I know that guy as, other than the Thor
Yeah,
cameo.
that's the thing is he does. It's
Ragnarok.
weird. He doesn't act much. He owns like a vineyard, and so like he'll post on Twitter like pictures of him with his like wine that he bottles and whatnot. And I think like his Twitter bio even says like professional winemaker, occasionally acts if pressed.
That's hilarious.
But
Okay,
Acts
all right.
impressed.
check it out.
I'll check it out. So far, I think I've seen everything on everybody's list except for the fucking video games, which we said film fucker. But that I look forward to watching.
It's definitely what you would call cosmic horror, right? Like,
Yeah.
very Lovecraftian. I think that's actually the first Lovecraftian thing I ever saw. It's either that or the episode where like Superman, or the Superman animated series where he goes up against like kind of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one on my list, it's a Wes Craven film that's not very well known, which it should be. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. The People Under the Stairs.
Oh, for a minute I thought you were going to say New Nightmare, but okay.
No, New Nightmare is that. But People Under the Stairs is I think it's in the 80s. It's Wes Craven's. I don't know. I don't know why it didn't get as popular as other ones. It was definitely good. It was 1991. Sorry, 1991. Brandon Adams, he's the lead, which he's also in The Sandlot. He's the pitcher, the black guy, the only black guy in The Sandlot. You remember that, right? Anybody seen The Sandlot?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, okay. So the pitcher, the only black kid in their group, he stars in the People Under the Stairs. It's about this kid, and well, first of all, have any of you guys seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
No.
I haven't.
Okay. It takes place in the hood, and it's this kid who his mom is sick and she can't work, she's dying, and he's getting desperate because he's the only boy of the house, and his sister's boyfriend is like a criminal played by Ving fucking Rhames, super young. He's a thief, and they want to go and do something. He wants to get the kid involved to make some money, and I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but the premise is they go and they fuck with the wrong house. That's to say the least, but it's super gory for the time. It has a lot to do with cannibalism. They're like funeral homeowners, the villains, and they're cannibals, so it has that weird. It's one of those films that kind of it reminds me of Texas Chainsaw, but if that existed in like the hood, you know what I'm saying? So it has that creepy vibe to it, and it also has the feeling of like you feel gross when you're watching. You ever seen a movie and the set or people on the set, it seems
adult
gross,
movies?
and no, not adult movies, just like Texas Chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
Like, it seems like the house stinks. That's what I get from this film too. There's a scene where they have like a bunch of flies, like dead flies, all over the windows, and that just it gives you those heebie-jeebies. And really good film. I highly suggest it, man. It's I would call it a slasher, but it has a lot of good scares, like good jump, and it also has some weird sexual stuff that I if you watch it you'll know what I'm talking about. But I highly suggest it. It's Wes Craven, man. Like Wes Craven's I of course Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street are like his most popular things aside from Hills Have Eyes after that, and this was one of those that didn't really get doesn't get mentioned as much when you talk about Wes Craven, but definitely worth a watch, man. That's my number two on my list.
Wes Craven is amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Who's next? It's either Joaquin or
Gasper, yeah, because Gasper started.
So it's hard to tell this is gonna be in my top anything, but I want to talk about it because I just saw it. That's Us. So I actually really, really, really like Jordan Peele. I really liked what's the other one called? Get Out.
Us?
Get Out. And then
because he was like that comedy guy with Keegan Michael Keel, and
yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I actually didn't watch the show until after. I think because it came out in the early 2010s.
It is more recent than that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't.
Wait, are you talking about the show or the movie? The show was like 2015, 2014.
Yeah. So I mean, my kid was born in 2015, so I was busy at the time.
You're pregnant?
I was taking care of a pregnant chick. Anyways, so I missed it, and it wasn't until after that I started watching the clips here and there. But what I really like about Us is that a lot of common themes are either flipped on their head or it just changed. For example, a lot of the slasher movies tend to be about like I think female sexuality, right? Where it's like the virgin gets to live and everybody else who's promiscuous dies. I think Us has a lot of slasher elements, but it has nothing to do with anybody's sexuality. The other thing is that in a lot of slashers you get a handful of characters and they all die except for maybe one or two at the end. And this one, oh man, I guess I don't want to spoil anything, but it doesn't use that template where you have. Actually, I'm getting into spoiler territory. Who has not seen this movie?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. The other thing is really where the monster, if you will, comes from. It's supposed to symbolize a slave uprising, and there's not a whole lot of movies, at least in mainstream Hollywood, that I've seen that even touch that topic. And so it was really nice to see that. And to me, it wasn't obvious to me. I had to figure. I looked it up afterwards. That's what it meant. But and you'll see little nuggets here and there where like he's trying to Peele is trying to tell you like, hey, this is supposed to deal with these types of social issues. So I certainly appreciate that. The other thing is that the protagonist, Lupita Nyong'o, I think that's her name. She is amazing. I don't think I had ever seen her in anything, but she plays two characters, and actually everybody plays two characters, and really everybody it's insane how.
You mean those aren't evil versions of those characters?
I'm
kidding.
I didn't watch the commercial. I knew nothing about the movie until I saw it. I had seen the poster or the thumbnail or whatever, but I knew nothing about it. All I knew was that Peele had done it, so I was like, that's it. That's all I have to know. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I just watched Get Out for the first time today. So I see, I guess from what you just said, I see the themes that he kind of puts in there that, you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, I don't think you have to, at least not you, like, I think if you're a person of color, you don't have to like turn on your brain. A lot of those things you'll get them automatically. Like, okay, for example, a lot of those 80s movies, whether it's horror or anything, like a lot of it to me personally, it doesn't seem relatable. I feel like a lot of it is like middle class issues, like and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, when I saw Us, I definitely took it in as this is clearly a critique on classism in the United States.
Yeah.
Like the clones depicted in the film, spoiler alert, seem to represent the underclass, and those of us that are living above ground are middle class and up. Um, the forgotten, the downtrodden, and like Jordan Peele, it watching Us, and from what I've read and heard about his first breakout movie, Get Out, it totally makes sense that he is the showrunner for the new Twilight Zone because the original Twilight Zone tackled social issues,
Yeah.
and Jordan Peele tackles these social issues head on in his horror and thriller work. So, I mean, I've watched the first season of the new Twilight Zone with him helming it, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is totally like every single episode feels like, it's in that direction, in that modern Twilight Zonian vein, and that's what Us brought to the table. It's an hour long, superbly executed episode of the Twilight Zone, and I don't even mean that as a downplay. I mean that as like a positive notion because, yeah, no, it's really dope.
Yeah.
Your take on it as like a slave uprising?
Well, no,
I like that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said I like that. I like your take on it as a slave uprising. I think that's very appropriate comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that yet. I just watched Get Out today for the first time, another Jordan Peele film. So I really enjoyed it, and it was not what I was expecting at all. Yeah, Us is. I mean, yeah, I have yet to watch it. I don't feel like it's. Well, I don't feel like it spoiled anything yet. So,
Yeah, there's
from
still
what you guys
plenty
said.
in the movie. It's very late.
Right. Okay. All right. Unless you got anything else, everybody. I think Joaquin's next.
Okay. All right. So.
What you got?
All right. So I've done what, 2 already?
Yeah.
All right. So
number 3.
Time to go into my third movie. And all right, I'm just gonna say it. Stephen King's The Mist.
Ooh, fucking another one I haven't seen.
It's more like what's really good about Stephen, when you read his books, the amazing descriptions, the awesome detail, and then the characters. They really drive the story home. Without those characters to anchor you in the world, the concepts just wouldn't work. And in some cases, the best horror isn't necessarily the monsters lurking. Like it's the people that are having to function in this world gone wrong. And The Mist entirely, just captures that. Like, yeah, there's this crazy mist that's rolled into town, and we're all hunkered down in the local grocery store. But it's not just the creatures out there that worry us. It's the crazy religious nutcase that's got everybody thinking that, she's the end all be all and we should just listen to her because it's obviously the end of the world. And she's the only one sitting here spouting lines from Revelation. And if she says we should go stone a person because they did something, then we should probably go stone them. Or what happened? Was this something that like our government was doing, tooling around with stuff that they shouldn't have? And it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Is this the one with the brutal ending?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because in the original ending of the book, the characters just kind of drive off into uncertainty. Like they leave the supermarket and they just go further on into this endless mist that seems to engulf the entire world. The movie has a more hopeful ending / not really.
Quick question: was the film made by John Carpenter? Or am I tripping? I think I'm tripping.
No, I can't remember the director right now, but I know it wasn't John Carpenter.
Okay, all right, okay, no, never mind. I have yet to see that one, but but I've heard a lot of good things about it so far. So
There's a great Stephen King reference in that film. The main character is a guy that his living is to paint Hollywood movie posters. And so he's working on a poster. And in the book, that's how it works out. In the movie, they show him doing this. And he's painting a classic book cover for Stephen King's novel, The Dark Tower. And if you're a a wide-eyed fan and you're looking close enough, you'll go, "Oh, that's Roland." Slick.
okay.
I think I know the brutal ending Gasper is talking about, and I think that's the fog, not the mist.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Then I haven't seen it. Sorry.
No. The Mist has an ending that will make you go, "Oh, this poor man. Oh no."
Okay.
Okay, all right. So what about you, Phil? Unless anybody still got something on the Mist.
Okay, well, so we talked about him earlier. We're going to talk about him again. I go back and forth on which one I like more, so we're going to talk about both. I got A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, and A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
Oh.
There's been a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street movies, been a lot of Freddy Krueger movies to varying quality levels. But I think, ironically, the ones that Wes Craven did, 1, 3, and New Nightmare, are like the best in the series. 4 is not bad. 4 is not bad. Freddy versus Jason is fine and mindless.
It was a fun film.
But then you get to films like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Freddy's Dead, where you're just kind of like, really beating this horse enough. But 1 and 3, I think are the best.
Okay.
I like New Nightmare, but I don't know. I have a weird relationship with a New Nightmare. Like,
I love the New Nightmare probably more than any of them.
Really?
To be honest.
Because the reason I don't like A New Nightmare is it acknowledges that the other films are just films.
That's what I loved about it. That was an interesting take.
Yeah, whereas 1 and 3 are like building on each other and building on the lore. So, but if you, I'm assuming everybody here has seen at least a Freddy Krueger movie.
I've seen 1. I've seen A New Nightmare. I think I've seen 2. Pretty sure I've seen 3.
2 is really bad. 2 is when instead of having a damsel in distress, they tried to have a dude in distress, and it didn't work. But what I liked about 3 is that they bring Nancy back, and she has, of course, these kids are going through the whole thing with Freddy again, and Nancy comes back and she's already been through this, so she acts almost like a superhero mentor to these kids and trains them on like how to fight Freddy, and that's where the name the Dream Warriors comes from, because that's what the kids turn into. They become the Dream Warriors and fight Freddy on his own turf, and I really like that, and I like how it builds on the world that was established in the first one. And I think that first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, it holds up even more so than like the remake that they did in, was it 2012, whenever the hell that remake was? Like no one talks. Yeah, like no one talks about the remake. It's super forgettable, but the original like still holds up. Like this. What's that?
I'm gonna give you some bad news.
Oh my God, Dados.
Not really bad news. To me, this is good news. I don't know if you've heard about the latest update on Nightmare on Elm Street. Is the Robert Englund is taking over as a director.
Okay.
Which is good because he, as everyone knows, anyone listening, Robert Englund is the original Freddy.
Yeah.
And he's taking over for director, obviously, because Wes Craven is no longer here. And he, according to this article I read, who he wants to see play Freddy Krueger from now on is Kevin Bacon, which I fucking love. That would be
Kevin Bacon. I mean, I thought the dude from Watchmen did an all right job, but I don't know.
he didn't have charisma to me.
Yeah.
For me,
Well, see that.
he didn't.
Yeah,
He was scary. He was definitely scary, but
because what it was is as the Nightmare on Elm Street films went on, Freddy became more and more of a comedic character, and they became way more jokey and way more campy. And he did have some charisma and some playfulness to him, but he was much more sinister in the first couple films, like the first 3 films. And so I get what they were trying to do with the remake is take all the silliness away and try and make him serious and scary again. So I get that, but I think they went too far in that direction, and they kind of lost the charm that made people like, Freddy to begin with.
right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Because they did.
I love the idea that this town finds out this dude is a pedophile, so they burn him alive. I kind of think that's like the perfect course of action. I totally condone that.
Agreed. And I that's why I also like a new Nightmare, because it kind of made him sinister again. He wasn't as funny as he usually is.
Yeah,
as he was in the last 2 films. And they kind of made him. They made it scarier than he had been for a while.
Yeah, I know when the franchise was in dire straits at that point. I think Freddy's Dead was the last one before that. And the New Line had brought Wes Craven back to do the next installment. And apparently he watched like all the other Freddy films that he didn't do. He watched like all fucking 8 Freddy films and was just like, I can't save this. We're just going to start over.
Which he did. Fuck, he did for sure, man. All right, okay, all right.
Gasper, have you seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films?
So I watched. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So I watched. I probably most of them when I was a little kid, and I never liked them. You know what always made me uncomfortable with slashers was that like I always tended to identify with like not the main character, and anybody who's not the main character was probably gonna die. Anyways, I watched the first one probably about a year ago. I think it was on Netflix, and I went into it expecting to hate it, and I actually liked it. I was like surprised that I don't know.
The first one is so good.
Yeah,
like
it is.
There's a couple things where like I remember like the first time I watched it, like obviously nobody fucking believes Nancy, and then like she like pulls Freddy's hat out of the dream world into the real world, and they still don't fucking believe her. And that was the point where I'm like, you people are dumb. I hope you die. Holy shit. She's literally holding his charred hat right now. How are you still not believing her?
Yeah, I will say this too, for Halloween, that is like one of the most common costumes of all time. The Freddy costume.
Yeah. What's crazy is like Robert Englund is like so passionate about this franchise that when like fans bring him like Freddy gloves to sign, he can tell whether it's like a replica of the one from the first one or the third one or the sixth one. Like he knows like all the fucking nuanced details and shit. I think that's fucking cool. Because I saw this video where he was signing a glove for somebody. He was like, oh, this is the one we used in 2 because the hook came like this. In the first one, we had it like this and it went under. And then on the 4th one, we changed it to this. And I'm like, holy shit. You fucking know the nuances of your slasher glove. That's badass, dude.
Yeah.
That's committed to the role, man. That's what that is, commitment to the role.
But then I just flash back to like Star Trek fans asking William Shatner questions at conventions and him just rolling his eyes like, look, you fucking nerd, it's not a real spaceship, okay?
Yeah. What was your favorite glove? The new Nightmare glove was dope. I like that was like one of my favorites, man.
The new Nightmare, the glove was dope. I didn't like his costume. I thought his costume was kind of lame.
What, the trench coat?
Yeah, and like it's just I don't know.
I didn't like the ending. I'll say that I didn't like the ending for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. On my list next, unless you guys have anything else to cover on.
Nope.
Man. This one is one of the most fun films that gets me in the mood for like Halloween, you know, because there's a fucking Halloween month. It's a film called Fright Night, the original Fright Night from 1985, not the remake from 2011 with Colin Farrell. The original was with. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys?
I haven't seen either version.
I don't think I've seen
Okay.
it.
Okay. What about you, Phil? I couldn't hear that, but yeah, it's a fun. I watched it as a kid. It kind of scared me as a kid, but I guess you could call it a horror. It's in its day, it must have been scary. The you know, the makeup, the effects. I guess they're a little cheesy now because I just watched it 2 days ago. But it's a fun horror film. I guess you could consider it a slasher. It's based on this kid. He notices his new neighbors moving in, and they're bringing in a coffin, and it's a vampire film. All right, it's a vampire film. Chris Sarandon. Are you guys familiar with Chris Sarandon? He plays the detective in the first Child's Play. He's also the guy that shoots Charles E. Ray.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Very like handsome dude. You know, he's like this super charismatic vampire who, like, you know, which of course Lost Boys was on my list too, but I thought about, like, I wanted to throw in a vampire film, and a cool vampire is always makes a movie cool. You know, Interview with the Vampire, both of those guys were like super cool. But this is for me, I guess, because of nostalgia. You know, it's one of the coolest vampire. Like the character himself, he's super charismatic, and he doesn't even seem like a vampire, which is why I like the film. He doesn't seem like a vampire. He seems like a normal dude of that time, but he's like this old vampire. It's I would say it's mostly a fun film. They remade it with Colin Farrell as the vampire, and that young kid from Star Trek that died. He plays the main guy. Was that
Anton Yelchin?
Anton Yelchin? He plays the protagonist for the remake, which the remake it's interesting. I mean, you know, it has better effects. Obviously, it's more of a modern day film. It's this kid, and he notices that there's a vampire next door. He freaks out because he's the only one that has seen like bodies being carried out. He sees young, pretty hookers come into the house, and then he just sees his henchmen like carry big old plastic bags outside afterwards, and he notices that. So, but no one believes him. It has the whole thing of no one believes him, and nobody believes in vampires. You know that. He contacts like some actor who plays a vampire hunter because he runs out of options. He tries to call the cops, and it's just this. It's hokey horror, 80s horror film, and it's fun to watch though. If you like 80s whatever slashers, which is when they were booming, it definitely has that fun feel to it.
I did watch it.
You did
recently, like within the last couple of years.
A lot of nudity,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a fun film.
Yeah.
It can be scary if you have kids, I guess, you know, and it's even the remake is kind of cool. And what I like about the remake is they actually had a scene with Chris Sarandon, which I always love when they do like something to pay homage to the original one. So, but yeah, that's on my list. Since you're the only one, do you remember anything about it, or did you like it?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I remember there was really it was a fun movie. I don't know if it was meant to be fun at the time, but but today it was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you watched it like what? How recent? Like a few weeks ago, or a month
No,
ago?
I think I watched it maybe like a year and a half ago.
Okay, it's definitely a fun. Like, I guess, would you consider that horror? I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it becomes like a horror comedy at times, right?
Well, because of a certain character. That character, the goofy guy.
Yeah.
He's obviously comic relief, which I do like when they have a really good comic relief in comedy in horror, because it lets you breathe a little, you know.
Yeah.
The movie when the movie's really scary.
Yeah.
But this one, it's like super overdone, and according to someone who I watched it with, he is a total like a party, what a party guy would in the 80s sounded like. So it's kind of a little time capsule in itself too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Fright Night. It's a fun movie. I think it's free on like Amazon Prime. So that's get you in the mood for sure, man. That's mine. Unless anybody got anything else, I think Gaspar, you're next.
So the next movie I want to talk about, it's called Perfume: The Story of a Murderer. Has anybody seen it?
No,
Nope.
I haven't.
Okay, I think it's like a maybe. I think it's it's 20 years old, I think, by now. But so it's this movie about a guy that he's kind of weird. Like there's a montage at the beginning where he's kind of abandoned by his mother, and then he's picked up by a few people, and like just grows up by himself, right? And so he gets picked up by this. He gets taken by this guy who does perfumes, right? And so I think he learns how to make. I haven't seen it in a while, but he learns how to make perfumes, and then he finds out that he can make perfumes out of women's scent, and so he pretty much ends up murdering women to create perfumes. A really uncomfortable movie. The first time I watched it, I was like, "This is crap." Anyways, I for some reason I watched it a few more times, and the reason why I really liked it, it's problematic because like all he does is kill women. Anyways, the reason I liked it, at least at the time, was that the guy, like, other than the part where he kills women, he was really relatable. I hope nobody ever listens to this.
The FBI is listening in on this right now, dude. You fucking psycho.
I know, right? So he's like super weird, like barely talks, which reminded me of my youth. Well, even now, Anyways, except for so yeah, and he just cannot connect with anybody. Like this, what's his name? Dustin Hoffman is the perfume guy who kind of takes him in and teaches him a bunch of stuff, and yeah, he just cannot get close to anybody. He kind of goes from place to place, and yeah, he just at the end there's this scene where he kind of realizes that he's alone, and I mean nobody's gonna ever watch this, so I'll just say
I see why you relate. I'm just
yeah. Nobody's ever going to watch this, so I'm just going to spoil the shit out of it. Yeah, he so the first girl that he kills her accidentally. Well, not accidentally. She starts to make noise, and then he puts his hand over her face, and he doesn't mean to kill. After that, every girl he kills after that he means to kill. But and so at the end, he realizes that he's alone, and he has really no human connection with anybody, and so he just. He pours. Okay, so he creates like the ultimate perfume made out of a bunch of women. He pours it on himself, and then like people just eat him. What a weird fucking movie! I can't believe I'm talking about this movie.
Next, no, I'm just kidding.
The point is that I really liked it, and really nobody should watch this. I'm gonna be honest.
You fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You know what happened was I was working at Blockbuster, and I rented like some B movie. I like to do that sometimes, where I'll just rent like the randomest shit. And the commercial came on for perfume, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got perfume from Blockbuster. We were renting. They would give us 5 movies a week, and so I gave it a shot. Anyways, yeah, don't watch it. None of you guys watch it. Listeners, don't watch it.
Wait, is this your 5th film?
No, this is my 4th.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, really quickly. So, oh man, I don't remember the name, but so the guy who did
this movie. He also did Run Lola Run, and he did what was that movie with the Wachowskis that's like 3 hours long? Let me see. Hold on. Have you guys seen Run Lola Run?
No.
No.
Okay. Tom Tykwer is. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he also did. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Said Tom Tykwer?
Yeah. He also did Cloud Atlas with the Wachowski siblings. But yeah, don't watch it.
All right.
You're
Thank
telling
you for
us
that,
not
man.
to watch one of your top 5. Okay.
I really like it, but I understand it. Like,
Leave it alone, Joaquin. Leave it alone. Anyways, all right. Well,
It
you
sounds like the
people,
film is cursed.
it does. It sounds like he just put a curse on that shit. All sales of that film will cease to exist after this fucking review comes out.
right?
But all right, okay. And now I want
I
to
feel
watch.
like if I watch it out of curiosity, I'm gonna die in 7 days or something like that.
You for some reason start developing this thing where you start looking like Gaspar. What about you, Joaquin? What's your next one on your list?
From dusk till dawn.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Chat. I love the movie, not the show, because I haven't seen the show, but the movie's fantastic.
George Clooney gives an amazing performance. The set of circumstances.
Quentin Tarantino's great in that too.
Yes, he was.
For the short time that he's in there. Oh yeah.
The
Gecko
shooting
brothers are
scene.
amazing.
And I was fucking Selma Hayek. I love me some Selma Hayek. Oh my god. That scene. You know the scene.
Oh yes.
That shootout scene at the liquor store is great too, man. That was dope.
That is so good.
I just love the circumstances of how all these characters get together because it's serendipitous. You know, it's like you wouldn't expect this family that's on like a road trip in an RV to link up with these two career criminals. You know what I mean? It's the first time that I picked up the idea that you could probably take drinking alcohol and use it to clean your wounds.
Jack Daniels, baby. Yeah.
I saw that film. I think they aired it on Fox, some years back, like in the late '90s. So I saw it on TV, and I just fell in love with it because I've always loved vampires, and this was like a new spin on vampires. It wasn't some castle out in Eastern Europe. It was an Aztec temple out in the middle of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love about it is for like 75% of the movie, it's just a great like crime criminal thriller movie. And then all of a sudden fucking vampires show up and it's like, all right, well, this works too.
Your genre surfing.
Yes, that was the first time I ever saw Danny Trejo as a kid.
Same here.
Until I'm wrong, Blood in, Blood Out, but that was the first time I remember him like, oh shit, that guy, you know, and that whole like the instruments. I think I saw a band have something similar to that, like it was made from that film at some like heavy metal show I went to, and that's one of those scenes that kind of like stays with you. You can smell a scene, you know. Yeah.
That's the first time I ever saw that classic trope that's used in a lot of zombie movies or any infection horror media, where someone gets bit by the monster and doesn't tell the rest of the group.
Oh yeah.
And hey, you know what? We used to think, oh my god, what a played out trope. We're seeing it in real life. Where people get the COVID and don't tell anybody because they don't want to stay home for 2 weeks.
Yep. It comes from actual human behavior.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those cases where like, writers get it right. Where it's like, yeah, there's no such thing as vampires, but people do actually act this way. Like people show up to work sick.
Yeah, for sure.
Irresponsible buggers. And that's the first Robert Rodriguez film I've ever seen. And I think
No way.
probably
I love Robert Rodriguez. He's probably one of my favorite filmmakers. I love Desperado. I love the first Sin City. Obviously, I love From Dusk Till Dawn.
El Mariachi.
Mariachi was great. I don't like Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I know Gasper loves that one. It's not for me.
I didn't like it either.
and I will
But
say for a
Desperado,
long time
the movie's better.
and I will say for a long time it was my favorite Robert Rodriguez film until I saw Sin City.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
Dust Till Dawn was my jam-a-lam, and then I saw like Sin City, and I was like, oh, okay.
Was that the first black and white superhero film? It was, right?
If you don't count the serials,
Right,
then-
right, yeah.
and technically it's not really black and white because you have like that yellow bastard and some other characters in color. So
Right, but intentional, because one of the first, The Crow was going to be the first black and white superhero film, but they decided not to do that, which I think that would have made it more iconic. But yeah, I don't think I remember seeing any comic book movie in black and white when they didn't need to,
Yeah.
oh right, yeah,
And then
that's for sure.
and then Frank Miller liked it so much he made The Spirit, and then that was all she wrote.
That was horrible. I saw that in theaters on opening day, bro. Oh,
The
Jesus.
Spirit had so much potential. They had a decent leading role. They had Samuel Jackson as the villain.
He was good. I'll say that. He was great as a villain.
It looked nice. Like the film was shot nicely. It just the story it kind of fell flat.
Remember that scene?
Execution.
Remember that scene with in The Spirit with Samuel L. dressed as a Nazi? I don't know if you remember that.
Yes,
Yeah. For me, it's the only thing I remember about the film.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, all right. So that From Dusk Till Dawn. Phil, what's next on your tank?
Okay. Trying to think what would I put on my list. Okay. A classic that I certainly hope everybody here has seen. Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien.
Motherfucker, I haven't seen it yet.
Alien?
No, dude. No.
Look, trust me when I say this, JD, that Alien is almost at the best of the franchise, but it is one of the. It ties with the sequel. Have you seen any of the Alien movies?
No, I haven't even seen Prometheus, bro.
Prometheus is terrible. Just watch Alien and then watch Aliens. That's all you.
Well, you made me feel. Me and Joaquin had a little conversation the other day, and he made. I didn't know this about the film. He said the first one would be considered horror. The other sequels are sci-fi.
Yeah,
And
basically the first one, Ridley Scott's original Alien, it's like a horror film in space. It's this, the fucking crew in the fucking ship, and they find this alien and fucking starts killing people one at a time. And you're on a spaceship, you're trapped, you can't go anywhere. And so it's like this cat and mouse game with this deadly alien with acid for blood, and it's really well done and it's really scary. When James Cameron did the sequel, like literally, like I heard this story from him in an interview where he said his pitch for Aliens was like 30 seconds long. Like he walked into like the Fox studio executive, he wrote the word alien on the chalkboard, and then he put an S at the end, and then he turned the S into a dollar sign, and that was his whole pitch. And they created the movie. So the second one is more of like an action film. Like it picks up a few years after the first one, and we follow a bunch of Marines who now have to go into this planet who's getting a distress call, and it follows the events of the first film, but it's more of an action film as opposed to a horror film. And then after that, they didn't really know what to do with the franchise because the third one tried to make it a horror film again and failed. And then the fourth one tried to make it an action film again and failed. And then Prometheus was god awful. I know Sinister Intruder loves it, but I can't stand that film. But yeah, the first two are great. But that first one, that first Alien that Ridley Scott did, it's so good and it's so scary because you have this whole claustrophobic feel. You're on a spaceship. You can't go anywhere. You're trapped with this alien. And what's great is, I don't think this is a fucking spoiler because the movie's like 50 years old, but like, you know, in the 70s, we didn't have strong female protagonists. And so everyone's expecting, you know, the captain to be the main character because we have this whole crew and they slowly start dying. Everybody expects the captain to survive to the end because that's usually what fucking happens. And then the captain gets killed. And it's the chick, Ripley, who ends up being the sole survivor at the end. And no one sees that coming in the 70s. Like, what? A woman? Heresy. And she became like the face of the fucking franchise. And so
Journey Weaver, right?
Yeah. So this film, like, not only is it a great horror film, but it was almost like the birth of like the strong female protagonist. Because then after that, we get characters like Sarah Connor and Laura Croft and all, you know, every character Angelina Jolie has ever played. And, you know,
yeah.
But I don't think that happens if you don't have Ripley, you know, in this film.
Okay.
Joaquin, tell this man about some Alien. Tell about your experience with Alien.
Your experience.
My first time seeing it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and here's the weird part. I had seen Aliens before I saw Alien. My grandmother had it on VHS, and we saw it together down in Arkansas. And then, like, when Alien came on, I was like it was on TV one day, and I was like, what is this? This creature looks familiar. Wait, that's Sigourney Weaver. Wait, oh, so I kind of saw them in reverse. And Phil, I think you said everything that needed to be said about the first film. Like, John Hurt is in this movie as the android, if I recall, and we just sort of see that cemented reason as to why Sigourney Weaver does not trust androids.
Yeah, he played
which is a theme which is a trope that's carried throughout the series, where it's like the do not trust the robots. Going forward to Prometheus real quick for a second, the android David is sort of a torchbearer for that whole don't trust the robots bit, unless you're Bishop.
Yeah, he's the only android that gets
that's really all I have to say, except Prometheus, aside from looking nice, had some potential. I like the android character David. I like the main female protagonist in that one, but there's a lot of problems with Prometheus that could have just been better. That's it.
Okay.
Gasper, have you seen Alien?
I have. It wasn't my jam. Same thing with
Really?
Yeah, same thing with Dust Till Dawn.
There wasn't enough perfume in these movies for him.
See, that's the thing, is that I've seen some of these movies and they weren't my jam, and so I'm having to like pick video games and freaking perfume movies.
All right, okay. So Alien was that was Phil's, right, Phil?
Yeah, that was mine.
All right, okay. What are we on? Number 4?
Yeah.
I think so. I think we're on our. Yeah, I think
we're on 5 now.
Oh, so everyone's on 5 now. Wait.
No, 4. We're on 4.
Oh, we're on 4. 4. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right.
I thought Gaspar just did his 4th one. I'm sorry. I just like.
Yeah. He just did his 4th one. We all just did our 4th one. We have one more. Okay. I have a long list, but I'm narrowing it down to what scared the shit out of me as a kid. And I want to going back to the 90s. This is it's The only reason I'm mentioning it is because I feel like maybe a lot of people haven't seen this yet. But it scared the shit out of me as a kid. It's an anthology film. It's 4 different stories. Tales from the Hood. Have any of you seen that?
I've lived it because I'm poor.
Wait, what?
I said I've lived it because I'm poor.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, Gaspar, have you seen it?
He left. Hopefully he comes back.
Okay, well, Tales from the Hood is probably aside from like The Exorcist, I don't know why it's an anthology film, so it's like 4 different stories.
Hmm.
The
Gasper,
first one,
you've seen it, right, Gasper?
Wait, sorry, I cut out. Which movie?
Tales from the Hood.
Who's in
I
that?
doubt it.
Who's in that?
Shoot,
Let me just Google it. Go ahead, keep going. I'm gonna Google it real quick.
Okay, well, it has a lot of I guess they were big at the time. Joe Torre's one of them. I can't remember his name. He's in the movie. He's in a lot of stuff. He's one of the main actors. There's no main actor essentially because it's an anthology film. It's 4 different stories. It's these guys are going to a funeral parlor to buy drugs from a mortician who found like crack. It's I'm sorry. What? Oh, okay, I see. I thought this line was haunted for a second there. Well, so that's the premise. These guys in the hood, these 3 black dudes from the hood, they're going to a funeral home to buy drugs from this guy who found all these drugs, and he's this creepy mortician, played by, I forget his name, is Clarence something. He's a really good actor. He's in The Butler. He's in what's that film? Dave Chappelle. He plays Half Baked. He plays the drug dealer in Half Baked also. Anyways, and as they're going inside the funeral parlor, he tells them these 3 stories based on 3 different bodies that are in the funeral house. The first one is, so they all have this theme of social
Gloves.
The first one deals with this. Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I just heard something. The first story deals with these 4 cops, 2 different teams. They pull over some activist, this black activist who is fighting for against police brutality and cops that are selling drugs in the black communities, and they beat him up and they basically murder him. And it's one of the cops is black and he goes crazy, and I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but it turns into it's multiple stories. They all kind of have an underlying theme of like, social issues that affect the black community. And the theme song is by Spice One, and it's a creepy song, which is great. It's kind of violent. Joaquin, have you ever seen Tales from the Hood?
And he's gone.
Okay. Well, it's a good movie. I mean, for the time, I'm be honest, for the time that it came out, some of the effects were kind of gnarly, to say the least. I think right now the only way to watch is you do have to rent it, but last year they were playing it at the new Parkway Theater in Oakland. They were playing it. I don't know how they're gonna do it this year because COVID. But I definitely recommend it. Joaquin, have you seen Tales from the Hood?
I have not. I have heard many people through my high school and middle school years tell me about how awesome Tales of the Hood is, but I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, what the first story, it's kind of I guess it reminds me of somebody said, okay, what if Martin Luther King came back from the dead and he killed those who assassinated him? You know, and then there's another story with these voodoo dolls. A lot of it deals with voodoo, but it's a really some if you do check it out after listening to this, you're gonna find some of the film cheesy, but it's a really well. I mean, for the time, I appreciate it a lot because, like I said, the effects weren't what we have today. There's no CGI. I mean, you know, there was, but obviously nothing like we have today. So yeah, that's my fourth film. Gasper, what's up with you?
So yeah, at number.
This is your hold on.
Yeah.
This is your number 5. Before you give us your number 5, do you just mention some honorable mentions maybe that you didn't fit in the list?
Yeah. Let's see. Zombie Lake. It's this really campy zombie movie from the 70s. Let's see. Another video game, Resident Evil remake. I did write down Mulholland Drive. I don't know if it's not really a horror. Have any of you guys seen that one?
Which one?
No.
Mulholland Drive?
No.
Oh, okay. And then I wrote down Carrie. I actually really like Carrie, but
the original, right?
The original, yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I grew up. I used to watch it when I was like 6 years old, and then I had to watch it for film school, and I really liked it. There was a lot of things that I didn't, grasp as a 6-year-old. Yeah, but yeah, no. So I'm gonna talk.
You know what really creeped me out about Carrie, the original?
Yeah.
The little Jesus doll they used.
Hell yeah, dude. That thing was so creepy.
Like, what the hell was that? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I remember that.
Yeah. So I actually had to watch it for film school, and I liked it so much that I was like, I'm not even gonna bother with the new one.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
The Rage was not bad. I'll say that though.
What is that? Is that the ending? Or
that was a sequel. That was a sequel.
Okay.
Yeah. But is that on your list or?
No, not the Rage.
No. Was Carrie your number 5 pick?
No. It's just the honorable mention. But I'm gonna cheat again. This is actually my number 1. It's and I've talked about it before. It's Silent Hill 2.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this one's actually really dramatic. So it's made up of three. From what I've heard, it's made up of 3 different other works. One of them being Twin Peaks. The other one is Jacob's Ladder.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then the other part is a book. I forget what it's called. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Crime and Punishment, which I've never read it, but so I think it's made up of those 3 parts. And so yeah, basically, the story basically it's this guy. He shows up at in Silent Hill because he's been getting letters from his dead wife, and so now he has to try and figure out what the hell's going on, right? And so the whole game is you trying to find clues, and you meet a whole cast of characters, and they all have issues with them about them, and slowly you kind of go discovering that the problem is that James, the main character, he holds this burden, right? He did this really bad thing, and he's in Silent Hill, and he's basically being punished for this really bad thing that he did. And so, Silent Hill ends up being kind of almost a metaphor for hell. The reason, another reason why I really like this game is because it's a psychological horror, right? The character, the monster designs, like they make no sense. Like, for example, you get chased by a mannequin, and it's not a mannequin. It's like you cut a mannequin, and you just take the legs and the bottom torso. And then you take another mannequin, which is the bottom legs and the legs and the bottom torso, and you put that together. And so you're being chased by creatures that look like that. You're chased by this. What else? I don't know. Anyways, the monsters don't really make sense, but they're meant to kind of mess with your head, where you're not really sure what you're looking at, but you know that it's something that's gonna try and hurt you, and so yeah, really scary game. Just like Fatal Frame, it's like the controls are really clunky. For me, it's really easy because I grew up at the time where these games were relevant. I can go back and play them, no problem. But yeah, I really like that. The problem is not a monster or whatever. The problem is internal, and so you go through this kind of journey with the character, learning about his past and what he did. Also, the soundtrack is really good. If anybody listening knows or has heard any of it, they know that it's a really unsettling soundtrack, but it's also really, really good to listen to just by itself.
All right. Okay.
I'm gonna assume that none of you guys are familiar or have.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. That's pretty much it. It is. I've heard it's. You can watch it as a film without the gameplay, right?
I don't know if you could. I think you would be missing some parts. You could, but I don't think you get the full experience. I think watching a let's play would be better.
Okay.
I mean, they made a Silent Hill movie, right? An actual film.
The movie's okay.
But I heard Silent Hill 2. I've heard a lot of I've seen a lot of YouTube videos about it.
Yeah.
Where they say that like they haven't been able to top a Silent Hill game from the storyline of that particular one, and also like I saw some like zombie. What are they, like zombies? Right?
They look like zombies. They move like zombies.
There's a lot of disturbing, like unsettling, not scary, but unsettling, like things that they put in the game. That fucks with your psychology.
Yeah.
That's all I know about it. So I mean, I don't think I'll be able to play it, but I can look up some stuff or whatever, because I have heard of a lot about that Silent Hill 2 just being so great, the storyline being like a movie.
Yeah.
But we said movies, motherfucker. But we'll take it.
Well, so here's the thing, right? I love the horror genre, but I'm almost always disappointed by movies, and I don't know why. Like, there's a lot of movies. A lot of the movies that you guys have mentioned, they just weren't my thing, and so I love the worlds that a lot of these movies have, and the things like that. But I don't know. It's just often I'm disappointed, so I had to pick. I was even going to talk about anime, but I chose not to.
Okay. Joaquin, what you got for us, man?
All right, so my fifth film.
Wait, honorable mentions.
For my fifth, actually calling an audible. I know
Wait, you gotta give us your honorable mentions first. Just name them off. Whatever is not on your number 5, you got honorable mentions.
Okay, for sure. Honorable mentions include Us, because it wasn't on my top 5, but it was a really, really great film.
Okay.
Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
The Exorcist beat out Rosemary's Baby.
Good choice.
The black and white original 13 Ghosts.
Oh yes.
Like not the one in color, but the original one. And then like
the one with
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Nice.
That almost made my list, but Fright Night kind of beat out. I figured Chris Sarandon was cooler than the guys in Lost Boys. So.
So for my fifth one, I actually had to make a swap. So the swap includes a film that goes on my honorable mentions list now, which is The Witch. The Witch is not been bumped to honorable mentions as well. My replacement for The Witch is Let the Right One In. Not the new one with
the Japanese one,
Chloe Moretz from the Kick AWS movies.
Right.
but the original foreign one,
The
I think it's
Japanese
like
one, right?
filmed over in Switzerland, or
Switzerland.
maybe it was Sweden. It's a European country. It's one of those European countries in foreign language film.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I thought it was Japanese. My bad. You're right.
Great, excellent movie. The reason why I chose it, and I'll be completely honest, isn't just that it's a vampire film and I love vampire films, but there's this main character who's like this young boy, and he befriends this young girl that moves in next door. Like she moves into the apartment next to him, and they start communicating, bumping into, start talking to each other. And at night, only at night, and the revelation is this young girl is a vampire, and she becomes sort of his bodyguard in a way. Like you see her behavior, like we know she's a vampire before he does. So the film builds that whole tension of, him not knowing he could potentially be in danger, because they'll show her hunting homeless people and like draining them of their blood, but they become legitimate friends. And it's just sort of this unique blend of horror and sweetness, especially in one particular scene where he's being bullied by these bullies we've seen earlier in the movie. And he's being drowned in a pool by them. And as he's being drowned, you see from the perspective of the camera, which is underwater, and these boys' heads end up coming off and plunging into the water like beside him. So she essentially like slays these guys in his defense. Really great film. Let the right one in. Check it out.
I have heard it's way better than the American version, so I'll check it out.
You guys seen it?
I love that movie.
I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's way better than the American version. So yeah,
I considered talking about it, but I was like, maybe I'll leave it for next year.
Okay. All right. So now, Phil, what you got for us, number 5? Honorable.
So originally I had Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 as two separate entities on my list, but we ended up talking about them at the same time. So that's going to bump one of my honorable mentions to the main list. So for honorable mentions, I'm gonna say Get Out. I actually prefer Get Out over Us because while they're both great, Get Out could probably happen. Like that's the more realistic of the two. I was watching that film going, yeah, that's some shit white people would do, Whereas with Us, clearly that could never happen. But with Get Out, no, that's pretty plausible. That's some shit we do. So I'm gonna say that. I'm also gonna say Invisible Man, the new one that just came out. I know we talked about it on an earlier episode when it first came out, but man, I don't like reboots. Like if you notice, like I've never seen like the remake of any of these horror films we're talking about. But it's not a remake or a reboot in a traditional sense. It's like it uses the name, but it really has nothing to do with like the classic franchise, and it puts a modern spin on it, and it was very well done, very well crafted. So my honorable mentions are going to be Invisible Man and Get Out. As for my number 5, we talked about this a little earlier, but I'm going to go with Child's Play 2 because growing up, I was a Chucky kid. I saw all the Chucky movies up to a certain point. I stopped at Seed. That's where I left off, with Seed of Chucky. But something about Child's Play 2 always creeped me out. And JD, I think you and me were talking about this in the chat too before we did the show today.
Yes, we did. That is one of those where I think the part 2 kind of topped the first one. Although the first one was a game changer because there wasn't a doll killer film like that at the time, but the second one was they had more memorable. I think it's something to do where it has something to do with the first one was in the inner city. It was like in Chicago, in the south, I think South Side Chicago, in like the hood, and this one was in simple, a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think for me, what makes the second one stick out from the first one? First, I love the climax where they're at the fucking good guys factory where they make all the fucking dolls. I thought that was
Yes.
like a cool centerpiece for the into there. But what sets it apart, first one, yeah, you got a fucking doll killing people, but he seems more cruel in the second one because fucking poor Andy is this traumatized kid, and Chucky just keeps fucking with him and making all these adults think he's just like this asshole. Like he fucking, the whole thing in the school where he's fucking, writes profanities all over Andy's paper, so he gets in trouble with the teacher. And then he fucking beats the teacher to death with a ruler. And then I know we were talking about the scene where he trips the stepdad going down the steps into the basement and kills the fucking stepdad in a goddamn gruesome way.
You know what my favorite one? I didn't think about that, but that was something we spent half of the film. He's befriending Andy. Half of the film they're friends. And in this one, he's just an asshole. And one of the things that I remember from that is when he buries the other good guy doll. It reminds when I watched Step Brothers, it reminded me of that scene. So and then we also got to see more of Chucky's personality, which, he's a son of a bitch. Like, you really hate him in this one more than the first one.
Yeah. The third one I didn't really care for, where it's at military school. That one didn't do anything for me.
I agree.
Bride of Chucky was fine. I like Bride of Chucky. I like Seed of Chucky. I haven't seen was it Curse of Chucky or Cult of Chucky or the new Child's Play reboot with Aubrey Plaza.
I
point.
saw Cult of Chucky. I regret it.
Yeah.
I didn't pay a fee for it. I saw it at a friend's house, but I regret the time.
Yeah. I like the new one if it would have been its own thing and not been called a Child's Play, because the reason why I didn't like it is, and I'll say it because it was they mentioned this in the trailers. It's not a possessed doll. It's artificial intelligence, which I get it. It tied into like a more modern, and it did something different. But I think it should have just been its own thing, and it could have been.
It should have been like Toy Story 5, and new fucking Buzz Lightyear goes crazy and starts murdering people.
Exactly. Well, he's more powerful than Chucky from the Child's Play, from the first one. I'll leave it at that. But
but I mean, is it even Chucky if he's not trying to play hide the soul?
He's still, basically, and he's a little bit more of a creepy stalker than he is. Whatever. I don't want to spoil that one, but Child's Play 2, I like that there was no. I mean, in the first one, we had the hero guy, Chris Sarandon, which I mentioned earlier from Fright Night. There was no hero in this one, which also made you feel more afraid for Andy.
Yeah, the second one feels more hopeless because like Andy's mom isn't around anymore. Everybody thinks this kid's fucking crazy because all the people who saw Chucky in the first one died. I don't remember what happened to the cop, but I'm just going to pretend that he died too.
The mom is crazy. Yeah,
everyone thinks that he's crazy. Everyone thinks his mom is crazy. He gets stuck with these foster parents, and so it really feels hopeless for Andy. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It ain't gonna get better. And then Chucky comes back, and it's even worse.
Yes. That's definitely one of my favorites in the whole series. Cult of Chucky and all those. Like I said, if there's some cool stuff about those which I mentioned earlier, but nothing worth mentioning. Does anyone else have anything on Child's Play 2?
Gasper, what are your thoughts on Child's Play? Gasper, I guess he's got no thoughts on Child's Play. Okay, what about you, Joaquin?
So now we're down to my 5. my number 5. My honorable mentions. Obviously
I don't think
Halloween. I didn't want to throw that one in there. Of course, that's like one of my all-time favorites that I like watching, but I didn't want to mention that because, of course, that's like that's a given. Halloween 1 and Halloween 4 are probably my favorites. 28 Days Later. Like I love the soundtrack and that whole feel of it is weird.
Oh yeah.
Especially since it's set and it's a real disease that chimps get. It made it cooler. Um, um, the the Conjuring, the first one, I really enjoyed. It was it was the first time I enjoyed watching a paranormal film in a long time. It was kind of a breath of fresh air after years of the Paranormal Activity movies, which I didn't like. This one, like it had like real, for me, it really scared the shit out of me. And then another one that you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with, the Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the
That,
Mothman
I
prophecy.
enjoy the
Me
shit out of
too.
that. That's because of the story behind it, the real story that is attached to it, and it has some creepy moments. But I'll say this on my list of movies that I really enjoy watching. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Others with Nicole Kidman.
No.
Twist in that film. Ooh.
Saw Batman
Right?
Forever with Nicole Kidman.
Huh?
I saw Batman Forever with Nicole Kidman.
Oh yeah, no, this is way better.
That's a horror movie of a different kind though.
Yeah, that's horrifying, not horror. But no,
I'm
The
that weird
Others.
guy who likes Batman Forever more than Batman Returns. So
The Others, it's a fucking, it's a
Oh,
film
I'm
that takes
sorry.
place.
I got Batman Forever mixed up with Batman and Robin. I'm sorry, Bill.
You still there?
yeah,
Okay, it's a 2001
Yeah.
film, directed by Alejandro Amenabar. It was like this Spanish director. Gaspar, have you seen The Others? I don't think he has.
Gaspar's not here.
he's not coming
Okay.
back.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a film that takes place in like the 1930s. This family, it's a mother and her 2 kids. The kids have these weird disease where they can't go in the sunlight. Phil, have you seen it?
No, haven't seen.
You haven't seen it, right?
Nope, haven't seen it.
Hello?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, well, it takes place in the 1920s, 30s because it's after World War One. And this mother, yeah, she has these like 3 servants move in that they're coming in to help her. It's an old man and 2 women. They're helping around the house. They live in this like super big mansion, and they just notice weird things start happening around the house, like weird noises. It's like a creepy haunted manor, big castle film, but the twist at the ending, it's one of the best twists I have seen in films. Like aside from other, it has been done before, but it was very well. It was very done, very tastefully, man. Joaquin, you've seen it.
Oh yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on The Others, man?
It was a twist worthy of The Sixth Sense. Like twists
Yes.
can be hacky or they can be really good. This was a twist that was really good.
Right.
Surprising, unnerving, and it's because they build up to the point to where when it comes in and it's like, oh, it's so unexpected.
And because
It's unexpected because it is the opposite of what we expected.
right. Agreed.
It
And
defies our expectations, and that's a good twist.
yes. And it has a lot of good, like aside from having jump scares, there's a lot of good little, like, remember that Book of the Dead where she finds like these people that back in the days when they died, they took pictures of them, of their dead bodies as they rested on their
Yeah.
final day. That was like, that to me made me more creeped out than like a lot of the other stuff. that happened in the film. And when I watched like behind the scenes stuff about the film, the pictures you're looking at are real pictures from back in the day. So that just makes it a little bit creepier because these are like scary looking pictures, man. They're and then that piano scene was one of the best like scenes I have ever seen in a film for me. Like, it's very well done. It's not cheap. Every scene is it explains everything, and the acting is phenomenal, man. I if you want to like sit alone in your room and you watch it by yourself in the dark, it's like that perfect film to do that with. Would you not agree?
100%, sir.
And if you're with your girl, she's gonna grab you. I'm just gonna say. So yeah, that's my top number 5 film that is, my list is definitely like stuff to get you in the mood. That one, like the twist, and that I was 11 years old when this movie came out, 12 because I didn't see it in theaters. I was too chicken shit to see it in theaters. I saw it when I rented it from Hollywood Video, and that scene with the old lady in the dress, I think like scarred me for a long time. Where I had to have all the lights on whenever I walked in to a room at night. So I don't know. That's my five. That's my number 5.
That's good. That's good horror movie making right there.
Yes.
When it gets you wary about whether or not the lights are on before you enter a room. That's the director did their job.
I don't know if you guys have this with any of the films that you watched when you were younger. After watching a scary horror film, like a really good horror film that scared the shit out of you, it took me like a couple of days to be able to look at the mirror at night. When I went into the bathroom, I wouldn't look at the mirror. I don't know what psychological thing that's what it is, but that was my experience whenever I watched like a really scary film, and it like haunted me for weeks. It took me a while to look in the mirror.
Well, that was our favorite horror movies for the season. I like that we all had a very different list. Like, I don't think there was much bleed over or crossover. So
Yes.
that's pretty freaking sweet.
Yep. And if you guys listeners, if there's any of the films that you want to know about or whatever, you can comment, like, subscribe. If you have any suggestions based on what we said that we may like, go ahead and email us at thevoicepartypodcastshow@gmail.com. Other than that, you guys have any messages for the fans?
I want to say I am totally up. If you guys are up to recording some sort of, if we get enough people requesting, like podcast commentary to one of these movies, if the fans are like, yeah, we were listening to your like top 5, we'd love to hear you do your movie commentary to like Alien or Nightmare on Elm Street or Let the Right One In. You know what I mean? I'd be down for that. I think that'd be kind of fun if we get enough people asking.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Phil?
Well, 'tis the season to be scary.
Yes.
Especially with the end of the world upon us. So enjoy the end times, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, tell your friends, and most important of all, watch good films, especially the ones we just mentioned. This has been The Voice Party. We are out.
Out.